Hey Jewel fans!
I'm Chris.
And I'm Ronnie from the Jewel Writers Archive.
I'm Evil Lady Kale, and I've captured Sunstar.
Oh no!
If you couldn't guess, today on the Archive Showcase, we're talking about Jewel-powered Kale.
Evil Lady
Evil Lady Kale. She is Lady. She's actually Princess Kale.
Right.
From the show. So, our main villainess.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of her as a kid?
About the character or about the toy?
Maybe a little bit of both.
Okay, so on the show, I love the design of Kale. I love the character. I wish...
She's so campy villain.
She's amazing. The thing is that over time, throughout the first season to the second season, she kind of lost momentum.
Yeah.
And then it was like, Morgana became more of the better villain.
Yeah,
I hate to say.
She's a little bit of a lackey in the second season.
Yeah, she is. So let's focus on the toy.
Yes.
So, my thoughts are, as a child, well, she's very seductive in the show, and as a toy, I feel like it's not as like seductive. I mean, is that
supposed to
right?
be for children?
I don't know. I mean, okay, well, even if it's not supposed to be, so let's just talk about the toy.
Well, I mean,
to start off.
you know, I mean, she's very much in the classic tradition of villainesses like Evelyn and Catra from He-Man and She-Ra.
Right.
You know, she's got the dramatics like the Misfits from Gem and the Hologram. So
True.
she's in a long. I guess she's in a long tradition of seductive villainesses on children's shows.
I mean, there's lots of seductive villainesses. I mean, you can look at the Disney archives as well. There's some beautiful villainesses there. But our villainess for today, Lady Kale. So my initial thought when we talk about the toy is the texture.
That's so weird because I never had her as a kid, so
Yeah.
the textural thing is not something that I ever really picked up on.
So if you're looking at this, when you look at the whole doll, she's covered in this like bumpy,
nubbiny
pink. It's, I don't know, what would you liken it to?
Let me see.
Like,
it's like the skin of a reptile.
so it's a little reptilian. I mean, maybe like a dragon. I don't know, but a dragon might have this kind of bumpy.
It's not scales. Like it's not like scale armor.
Right.
It's like the skin of a lizard.
I don't know. That I think for me that was it didn't sell me. It didn't. The only reason why I got this was because it completed the set. I think in addition to that, her special feature are glowing eyes. So the eyes really glow.
So if it's not glowing though, she has these dead, like light socket eyes, and they're
and
a little creepy.
I mean, and the only time that this happens is in Full Circle.
Yeah,
at the end.
That's
of the
where
series.
the special feature comes from. Is her eyes glowing.
Right. So, I mean, but again, she's jewel-powered Lady Kale. Like.
It is her jewel power, I guess.
Is glowing eyes?
They really should have just put a glowing darkstone.
Right.
On her
I mean,
belt.
and that would have been amazing. Like, to have a darkstone would have been really, really cool. Anyway, so we have glowing eyes, Kale.
Yeah.
For me, the face. Let's talk about the face. So, I know the eyes are weird, but I just feel like also the design of the face, like the actual shape. She's so oblong. Like, it's...
Well,
and then you can look at the model, the prototype.
Yeah.
And looking at that...
It's a little
much
round.
more... It's rounded.
Yeah.
She has cheekbones. Like, here she just...
Her face
it's
is
not
a little...
flattering.
It's a little blobby.
It is! It's not flattering. I wish she should have been more... I just keep using the word seductive. But I mean, even as a child, I appreciated that, and I wanted to see that. And then she has these like.
Well, in the show, her face is very long, very angular. It's very reminiscent of like Maleficent,
right,
from Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah, and I don't know anyone.
This is not reminiscent of Maleficent,
right? I mean,
except that there's the dragon helmet, which is by
the dragon
far
helmet is neat.
the dragon helmet is by far my favorite piece of Kale.
And it swivels on top of her head.
It swivels 360 degrees on top of her head to give you the action feature, whereas the regular girls and Drake have the flip up and down. So there's like a little slot groove in the top of the helmet, so that it's when it's faced which direction.
So when it has the head...
So when the head
down,
of the dragon...
When the head is down, then her eyes are normal. When the head it rears up, when you swivel it around, then that's when her eyes glow.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the hard pieces?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about this design work, straps. It's very 90s. It's very like X-Men 1990s look.
Right.
She kind of gives me a little bit of like a Scarlet Witch vibe. So I thought like, oh, that's such a 90s little feature. Just random pointless straps. Yeah, it's... But yeah, the hard pieces...
So wait, before we move to that, for me, the straps are attached to the boots. Again, her boots are so, for me, chunky. Like, the top of the boots are just... They don't give it shape. Like, I mean, if it would have been a wider calf, like, I mean, she would have...
Yeah.
It just... I don't know, it's something about this...
Are you saying Kale has cankles?
I don't know what she has. But, again, it just... I don't know, for a villainess, I would have wanted more. I would have wanted this villainess to stand out. Now, maybe there was something to do with the design. Maybe when they were doing the play test, maybe kids, identified better with this particular version of her. I don't know.
And you do wonder if, even though the tactile, textural thing didn't work for you, if other kids picked it up and, like, instantly knew or something that she was the villainess. I don't know. What do you think? Tell us down below. So
the hard pieces.
Hard pieces, yeah. So all of Kale's pieces outside of her dragon helmet are in this like kind of rough crystalline shape. The world of Jewel Riders is crystal studded, I guess to say.
There's crystals everywhere. I mean, there's crystals on the waterfalls. There's crystal on the animals. I mean, there's
like.
Crystals on the silverware.
Yeah, it's random doors will just have a crystal.
There's jewels on my mug.
Yeah.
Available at Redbubble.
So she, and it's it's classic villain sharp pieces, as opposed to the more rounded pieces of the heroes.
Right. For me, it always kind of looked like, I don't know. For me, I kind of got like a volcanic.
Yeah, it's like pieces of, that obsidian rock. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of, exactly.
You can, the only place I think you actually see the Darkstone, though, is on her comb. It's in that little tiny patch.
I don't think I've ever actually paid attention to
Really?
that.
Did you never notice that?
No. Like I said, I avoided Kale. I really wasn't looking at her.
So... soft pieces, I guess. She's got this cape. I wish they had given her the cape from the show. Like, Drake has a solid material cape, and Kale really needed to have one too.
Right.
It added a much more dramatic flair to the character. And this soft gossamer piece it doesn't fit.
Here's what we need. We need to have an artist challenge for someone to design the proper Kale doll.
Yeah.
So if you can do that, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, maybe you have. Tell us about it.
I don't know. What do you think about her hair color?
The purple, like I said, this toy is so off model from the show. It just...
It is.
The purple hair... That was the one thing that I liked about the toy, was the purple hair.
That's funny.
I liked it. Because,
funny.
if you had just black hair, it wouldn't have been as eye-catching. But because of the fact that you have purple hair, it was like, okay, yeah, it's pretty cool.
I think it's interesting that this purple, honestly, to me, feels closer to what Fallon's hair color from the show was.
Right. And yet Fallon got black hair.
The black and purple hair. So, decisions. I don't know.
Somewhere in a Kenner Story meeting.
Yeah, I would be interested to know what those meetings were like. So, Kale, I don't know, she's kind of a hot mess.
We hate to say it, but
I love the character, and this
right.
This poor doll she's not menacing. she's not, the real Kale character is, she comes on.
She's strong. She's bold. She's sexy.
Yeah,
she creates menace and she creates presence.
Yeah.
This doesn't.
Maybe what we needed to create menace was a Dragon Wagon playset.
That would have been really cool.
I
believe that it would have been pink.
Oh, that would have been so horrible.
Right? Well, everything else becomes pink.
I know. It's the market tested favorite color.
That's what they say.
So we hear.
And for even right here, 1 out of 2 people prefer pink. Hot pink's my favorite color.
If we're gonna stick with the Jewel Riders palette, I guess I'll take the teal.
The teal color.
Yeah, I like that. But yeah, any further thoughts on Kale, the doll, not as the character?
So again, she has the same molded arms as the other characters do. She has the bluish colored hidden jewel. I'm not sure why they chose blue.
Again,
it should have been purple.
Again, like most things on this doll, it's an odd choice.
Right. Well, at least they didn't give her blue hair. They could have given her blue hair and then the purple jewel. And she comes with a comb, but yet, for your villain, I don't think that she seems like the type to have ever had, to comb her hair. And it's interesting because, again, talking about...
Just because she's a villain doesn't mean she don't comb her hair.
So, the shield, the combs, that's another thing that's from Full Circle. Because when they're in the Cloud Kingdom...
That's right, they use magic shields.
Merlin creates the shields, and then they put it up, and that's the only time that you ever see them using really shields. Well, there are other times when they create giant shields, but
shields show up briefly.
But this is the first season toy, so for the first season, that's the only time that they really ever use shields.
So it's another piece sort of maybe taken from Full Circle.
Right. Apparently this is the Full Circle doll, so you have to... This is your play along for when you're watching Full Circle. But when talking about this, again, Kale never uses a shield. So for me, it seems like an odd choice to include. I mean, I get it that it's just a comb.
Would you have preferred like a Dweezil-shaped comb where its tail had all the little nubs? No? No Rufus comb?
No.
For you?
So, in general... the color palette's good. Let's say one positive thing. The color palette is good.
The color palette is totally show appropriate for the most part.
Maybe it's
maybe a little lighter than.
Yeah.
I think she was I think she was like a shade or half a shade darker on the show, clothing wise, and her skin is really pale here.
It is,
and it's not that pale in the show.
It's not.
She's like. Anya, Kale, and Gwenevere are all family, and they all have
tan color,
like a tan-colored skin.
Just more off-model coloredness
so
from Kale.
She looks kind of like a discounted evil queen from Snow White. Is maybe the closest I can.
Maybe that's what they were going for.
She's like the low-rent Maleficent.
And it's interesting because usually the paint or the color schemes would differ a little bit on the prototypes that were used for the photography on the back of the box. The Kale doesn't differ.
She is
almost to model. It is.
She has a beautiful curl in her hair.
Right? Oh, it's pretty. Although I will mention one thing about the back of the box. So, I don't know what you would call that, the kind of the flourish, the collar that goes
sort of
over her shoulder. It's supposed to snap into the middle of the straps. On the prototype, it's not connected to her.
Really?
It's like sitting up on her skin.
Oh, it is.
And one thing that I always had problems with when I was playing with a toy was that when I would put it in there,
I've never noticed that.
I would always kind of get it stuck in the cloth piece because it's supposed to keep the cape attached to the toy. And so I would always put it in there, but then it was too thick, and so you would try to attach it to it and it just never worked. So I try to do
That's really interesting.
I try to do that similarly where I would wrap it around her shoulder and then I would put the little shoulder piece in it, and it was too bulky and it wouldn't go. Another thing about the cloth piece, the cape, the little purple lavender strap that it's supposed to go around her shoulder.
Yeah.
And when you look at the back of the box, you don't see it anywhere. And
so it's presumably behind her then, right?
Right, but that's because it doesn't stay. But if you didn't attach it to her shoulder, to her arm, it keeps falling down.
Yeah, it's impossible to attach.
So what I had to always do was I would always put the lavender piece through the groove between her arm and her body to keep it in place.
Oh, that's a drastic measure.
And what it ended up doing was, though, it would cause the fabric piece, the little lavender fabric piece, to become just really brittle, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Or it would become worn.
Right.
And so then it started to rip. And it was starting to become very threadbare.
Yeah, I mean, the cloth pieces on these dolls are not what I would call the most sturdy cloth pieces.
No.
They're like the cloth equivalent of like 1-ply toilet paper.
Well, and there was other ones where they had the elastic on them, like for instance, like Tamara's skirt that had the elastic, and if you took it off one too many times, the elastic would stretch out.
Really cheapo elastic.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was, I mean, honestly, I think we talked a little bit about how the paint would rub off on the Jewel Power Gwenevere.
Yeah.
But I think this is the other one. There are some other ones, and we'll talk about it later. But for me, this was a part of the toy that just kind of was a little faulty.
Yeah.
Where it's like you look at the prototype and you expected it to be able to do something, and then you actually had the toy and it didn't do that.
Yeah.
That was for me.
Yeah. So we love Kale, but we're a little bit middling, it sounds like, on this doll.
But it's still fun. Hey, you know what? Sometimes
you need her for your adventures.
Right.
Though.
I was just gonna say, because sometimes for certain toy lines you don't get a villain. I mean, because villains, boys, they don't sell. So to actually have the villain in this line, I think it's a gift. It's a treasure.
Yeah.
So Kale, you are a treasure.
We wish we'd gotten that prototype Morgana that was never produced. Yes. Stay tuned. All right. Well, I think that's it.
It is.
So thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. And remember, friends together.
Friends forever.
Bye.
By the magic of a dark stone, you are tuned in to the Jewel Riders Archive.